Hi, and welcome to How to Tech Step. Today's session we're going to look at how to install Ubuntu 18.04 server. Let's get started. Before you can begin, you'll need to have downloaded a copy of Ubuntu server 18.04 and created an ISO, whether it's a USB or a DVD-ROM, so that you can boot from that. I'm using VirtualBox for the purpose of this, so I've mounted my ISO in VirtualBox. And Ubuntu is ready to go. I've mounted my ISO in VirtualBox and I'm installing Ubuntu virtually, but all of the same steps will apply on a physical device. So let's see. We're going to get started. You will have inserted your ISO into your PC and turned it on, and it should have booted to the screen you saw while we were getting introduced. On that screen, if you wait long enough, it will go to this screen, but from that screen you can certainly select install Ubuntu, and then of course you'll carry on from here. So getting started, we'll select the language, English. Wants to know your country, select your location. So in here we're really just giving some idea of our time zone and our system locale. I'm in Canada, so I'm going to select Canada. Okay, so you have a couple of things you can have happen here. To begin with, it's really just trying to figure out what keyboard layout you have. So you can go through the detection process, or you can tell it which you have. The detection process can take some time. If you're doing this in different languages, then I'd probably go ahead with the detection process and go through the steps, answer the questions, and it'll figure out what kind of keyboard you're using. Otherwise, if you're just good old English, US or Canada, or just plain English, then you can just say no here, and you can favor the US English and US English. So right now it's just trying to figure out all the stuff it's going to need to get installed. So it's basically just loading the environment for the installer. All right, wants us to give the system a host name. This is how our system will identify in our network. So I'm going to call this one my Ubuntu. All right, it's going to need a username here. I'm going to call this Ubuntu user. The same thing for my account as I did for my name. And a password here, we can just use something basic like password. And once again, verify it. You don't need to show the password in clear text. I'm just really doing that for the sake of the video. It's just getting system time now. All right, so it's kind of figured out based on our location that our time zone is America, Halifax, and in fact it's not. So I'm going to correct that and tell it that this is not the correct time zone, and I'm going to tell it that I'm in Eastern. All right, we have a lot of things that can happen here, but for you noobs, I'd probably just go with the default, which is use the entire disk and set up a logical volume manager. You could encrypt it, but if you're a noob and you encrypt your drive, you may lock yourself out accidentally, and you could just go with a regular guided entire disk, or you can set up manually. 20 years ago, or even more recently than that, it was very common practice to divide up your hard drive partition, a partition for boot that was limited in size so that your boot partition couldn't be filled with all kinds of unwanted things. A home partition, a root partition, maybe a logs, a var/logs partition, or a web server. But for just getting introduced to Ubuntu server, you're probably going to get in there and do all kinds of great stuff, and then you're going to dump it out and start again with all those great things you've learned. So I would probably just, for now, if you're getting started, I would just go with guided. And if you're familiar with Ubuntu server, you're probably not watching this video. So we're going to use the entire 10 gigs. And we're going to say yes, write the changes, and I'm going to use the entire piece. Alright, so it's guided is basically going to give us 2 partitions. Now we're going to say thank you, and we're going to write those to disk. Thank you, Linux. Alright, it's writing all of those necessary configuration values to the system as it installs it. Alright, it just wants to know if we're using a proxy server. We are not, so we can leave that blank. So apt is the package management system, and it's just checking with apt to see if there's any updates or Alright, so it wants to know how we're going to maintain our packages in the system over time. So you have 3 options, of course. No automatic updates, is you're doing it manually, all of it. The preferred method is to install the security updates automatically, and then you can do your application package updates manually. Or you can manage the system with landscape. But to get you started, I'd strongly recommend just going with install security updates automatically. Alright, it's just setting up the bootloader. Alright, so what it wants to know here, it recognizes that it's a new installation. It's just kind of wanting to make sure what we want to do with our bootloader. So basically, in this case, for certain, you're going to just, it's your master boot record. There's no other operating systems installed on your machine unless you happen to be doing this in a dual boot or a parallel mode with another OS. So you can go ahead and just say, yeah, install the grub bootloader in the master boot record. Alright, last couple of steps and then it reboots. Alright, that's it. Now in VirtualBox, it's already gone ahead for me and disconnected the CD drive or DVD drive, but you'll need to physically eject the disk or remove the USB stick from your machine before you reboot, or it's going to just try to go back through the install process. So, all right, remove your installation medium and then say continue. Just removing the last of the system installation files. And here we go, off to the reboot. That's basically it. We should be able to roll. So let's log in as our Ubuntu user with our password, and there you go. You're now at the full command of your Ubuntu server. It tells you some information about your server there, and lets you know you got some updates that need to be performed now. So to do those initial system updates, you're logged in as the user, so you would need to run a sudo command to work with the package manager. So sudo, and then the command you want to run here is apt-get update. Needs your password. So right now we're just checking to see what updates are available, or sorry, no, we're actually just refreshing the list of available updates. And now we're going to ask the system to upgrade them. So the same first part of the command, sudo lets you run as a sudo user, and then apt calls the package manager, and upgrade tells it to upgrade. So we got 52 megabytes. Let's go download those and let them install.